G'day everyone, I hope you're all well. Today I have the pleasure of having a discussion with Debz Buller, also known as Debz Shakti. Debz is from Kansas City, Missouri, USA. Debz lives a life of compassionate service, sharing the wisdom and gifts gleaned from a lifetime or lifetimes of study and practice. As founder of Quantum Life Transformations, she is pleased to offer assistance through many services and qualifications. Deb is a quantum hypnotherapist with 40 plus years of intensive working experience. Deb is a highly gifted channeler, Tel-Empath and intuitive counsellor, lifelong contactee, experiencer with extra dimensional and extra terrestrial intelligences, contact UFO experience counsellor, CE5 Ambassador, national coordinator and group leader, Paranormal and Metaphysical phenomenon Liaison, remote viewing instructor and facilitator, quantum shaman, Reiki Master, yoga teacher, nutritional and health coach and workshop presenter, personal trainer, organic gardener, author and ordained life celebration officiant. Deb, that's a lot of experience in this field.
Well, I'm pretty old, so I've had a lot of time to cram all that stuff in there.
It's many
Um, you
many
know,
feathers in the hat, I suppose you could say.
yeah, yeah. I like to have a full toolbox, let's just say. And it all seems to come together seamlessly for whatever I'm doing, with whomever I'm working. Um, so it's just, I have a really fun life.
Yeah, what a thing to be a part of, and yeah, amazing. So I have stepped into this community through CE5. That's kind of how I got involved, and it's kind of what people would call a red pill. It wakes you up. A lot of people are
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that these days, and there's no really turning back after you have your own undeniable experiences. So since being in this community, have you found it has been gaining momentum? How do you kind of see where it's at the moment?
Oh my gosh, yes. You know what? Even just in the last year, there has been explosive growth and awakening that I'm witnessing all around me. Um, you know, the last 10 years, absolutely. Really my lifetime, there seems to have been a revolutionary push towards consciousness and, higher wisdom and inner wisdom and all that. People got very interested in the metaphysical and what you might call the New Age movement, and my age group. I'm 63, almost 64, but my age group grew up knowing that something happened at Roswell. And it kind of woke people up to being inquisitive about other things that they had experienced. Maybe they didn't know what to call it or how to put a name on it. But it slowly gained momentum. And so I think what some people would call the UFO phenomenon, or just, the metaphysical world, or the ultra world, as I like to call it, it just started coming into the collective human consciousness more and more, because our growth, our development has brought us to a little bit higher frequency where we can actually perceive it. And then once some of us did begin spreading that information, then it rippled out and began affecting everyone else. It's kind of viral, basically. This is how we help each other wake up from the dream and come back into the knowledge that we are everything and we are connected to everything, and therefore we have access to everything if we want to take that responsibility. So, yeah, but seriously, this last 2 years, but especially this last year, since really 2018, beginning of 2018 into where we are now, I cannot keep up with the growth. It's so amazing. Yeah, and it's exciting.
Yeah, so you have a fairly large crew of people who are committed to initiating contact that meet up regularly.
Oh, yes, absolutely. My group it began as a kind of an informal group I called the Contact Starseed group many, many years ago, probably over a decade ago, when I had a wellness center of my own. And I used to do at least monthly workshops and gatherings where people would come because no one, where I live, no one seemed to have a place to come and discuss their experiences or ask questions. You know, people were very shy back then about this thing. And it grew huge because everyone was excited about it. Everyone felt, wow, I found a place where I can actually be myself and nobody's going to judge me, and we can actually compare stories and so forth. And then I became really involved in the CE5 movement and started my own group. And it's become very strong. We have a very strong core of people. I'd say probably our group is around 60 people now, but you get people coming in and out, depending on their schedules and everything, more than anything. And some just come in as spectators or curiosity seekers, and then they're not ready and they kind of float off again. But usually our group gatherings are, between 12 and 15 people. Sometimes it's been as many as 30 at a time.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the weather here, because we get some pretty extreme weather.
Yep.
But even when we have bad weather, we meet indoors now and have indoor experiences, including physical experiences, not just telepathic. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm very, very happy with the group that we have.
Yep. Awesome.
So, yeah, just last month CE5, which was 2 weeks ago, I think, we actually had 8 new people all at once come in. So, that's a lot.
It's very rewarding when someone, for the first time, experiences something. You can be there to witness that as well. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. It was incredible because we actually had pretty bad weather, and we have an intrepid group, so we'll go out unless it's just super dangerous. But it was very heavy cloud cover. It eventually rained, but we moved it's nearby a park, a remote park, so we went under the shelter for the second half. But we still had tons of really good contact.
Awesome.
We'll go out. Last winter we went out. Some of our group went out with Arctic gear on, and I think it was below 7 degrees Fahrenheit, very cold. But we stayed out for 4 hours and had incredible contact. So
amazing.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
We love it.
So, as a lifelong experiencer, do you feel, myself looking out, this was kind of inevitable you being a part of this, but was it kind of something you didn't really ask for, and when you were younger it's like, wow, what's happening? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I never asked for it. I actually just came in with it, along with all the other things that I do. I've always lived a multidimensional life and didn't realize that wasn't the norm until I went to school. My own family they just thought I was highly imaginative, but I had overlaid other families dimensionally in my life when I was a child and interacted with them just like I interacted with my family. And
wow.
I had the very first conscious recollection I have of true physical contact. I was maybe 3 years old, and the little beings were outside in my backyard in my favorite tree, which was up against my bedroom wall was glass. I lived in California at the time, so we had these cool houses with glass. Some walls were glass, and they woke me up tapping on the window, and I could hear him. I didn't hear voices. I heard it in my head or my heart. Come out and play with us. And at the time, I didn't have context. We didn't really watch a lot of TV. Well, it was the 50s. There wasn't much TV. And I was 3. And I think I'd been to the zoo once. So for some reason, I called them space monkeys, which I think is really significant because I didn't know much about space other than I'd seen a couple of rockets. We watched that and the space program, but I didn't know why I called them that. But they did look like little monkeys, and they were with big eyes. They were in my tree and tapping on my window saying, "Come out and play with us." And I kept going and waking my mother up saying, "Can I go play with the space monkeys?" And she would put me back to bed thinking I was dreaming. And eventually got irritated and told me, "I don't ever want to hear about the space monkeys again. Go to bed and go to sleep." And I was a really shy, good child, and I took that. I was very sensitive, so I kind of shut that down for a little while. But very soon, just a few years later, I started having a lot of contact again, and I, by the time I got to be a teenager and there were more things out there, I finally realized this is what's happening. And really, up until I was an adult, I just kind of didn't do anything with it other than it was just part of my life. But it was very cool to start finding books, and I think Whitley Strieber's book Communion finally really woke me up to the fact that, wow, I am having this experience, and it's comparable to other people's experiences. And that's when it really started ramping up, like being in my life every day. So
Wow.
I have everyday contact,
Wow.
constant contact now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel CE5 and initiating contact, continuing to be a part of this community in that way. Eventually it grows and our experience grows, and we eventually do get answers. And I feel I'm being a part of that to seek those answers as well. Even though it might take years, but it's a process we need to go through, I suppose.
Oh. Yeah, it is a process, and I believe we're being, I've been a yogi all my life too. And my guru calls this place where we are the school for the soul. I do believe that we are going through grades, if you will, and we're taken along in our education we're being spoon-fed information at our own pace, each of us, for what we can, hold capacity, for what we can integrate, for how we can use it in our lives. So everybody's going at their own pace. So we should never be upset when someone doesn't understand our experience, or someone's not even interested in hearing about it yet because they're not ready. And then there are those who are just having these phenomenal experiences, that so phenomenal that we might think that they're, mentally challenged, or I originally came from psychological or clinical psychology. I can remember at a very young adult age being in a mental institution and seeing people with what was then always labeled as schizophrenia, or multiple personality disorders and everything. And I started thinking, I wonder if they're really sane, but they're living like shamanistic lives where they're in many worlds at the same time. I didn't even relate it to my own experience that I was in many worlds at the same time a lot of the time, but that they weren't able to pull that relevancy into this particular life focus, and so no one could understand them, so they put them away, because they couldn't really function safely in the real world, in the outer world. So who's to know? But I believe that everyone has contact, and I believe they have contact all the time. They just, though, are not able to make it relevant to their current reality most of the time. But people are waking up to it now. So.
Yes. And it's interesting you say that, the people who are having difficulties with this reality, it's because they might remember or be more attuned to another reality which is more aligned with who they are. And here's the place that
Yes.
needs shifting. Actually, this is the society that's
Yeah.
a little bit backwards, I suppose.
Yeah, this one, this density is it's coming to a finality, if you will, of relevancy for most of the people who are in it. I would say we've overcome the critical mass point where now we're going to be shifting up into frequency that is a little bit more, or a lot more harmonious. In fact, the beings that I channel constantly now are just kind of, sometimes it's hard to tell who's who when we start talking, but they identify as the star teachers. They don't have a label. They've evolved to a point where they say they don't have any ego or need for any of that. So they don't go by any names, but they kept working with me in my healing sessions, my counseling sessions, and finally I had so many people asking what they could call them by that they said, you can call us the teachers or the star teachers. That gives more of a relevancy to people to know where, to bookmark us. So what they say is that we have hit critical mass and that we have already achieved what we are trying to do, which is to move out of this slow-moving, negative density dimension, if you will, that is kind of goes by the rules or the construct of duality, of karmic patterning, of even reincarnation and all of that, that when you finally move up from that to the next couple of frequencies and above, that no longer applies. That's just for this frequency and below, because it kind of gives a more physical construct. It's more material, and things to be held together have to, that's kind of the glue that holds it all together. But now they're saying most of us are finished with that experiment and we're ready to move on. And so their message is, we've already achieved it, now we just have to perceive it. And once we can sustain that perception, we are no longer going to be focused on this one, we'll be in that one and above, and we'll live in a more harmonious, creative, liberated lifestyle like they do. And in fact, they say they are us, having evolved to that frequency, and they are only able to speak to us now because we have evolved high enough to perceive ourselves in that way.
Wow.
So basically, I like to liken this to, did you ever see the fun movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Do you know about that movie?
I think I have seen it, but many years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, and
Yep.
it is just two kind of goofy California airheads, uh, time traveling, basically, so that they can complete a school project and not flunk out. Basically, that's the premise. And on the surface, it's funny, it's goofy, but it's one of the biggest spiritual parables I've ever seen, because what they do in this movie is they find a way to time travel, and they find out that they literally are the two people who help save the world from total destruction through music, which is interesting. But to keep themselves aligned with their path, they send themselves post-it notes from the future so that they will do exactly what they need to do to keep moving in the right way so they don't mess up. So basically what the teachers say they're doing is sending us post-it notes from our future, except there is no future, there's no time, just the different level of our reality. And they're just giving us guidance and basically a lot of encouragement and helping us to remember that we've already done it, and now we just have to focus on that and we'll be in that reality. So kind of, a brain buster, but
It's very
yeah,
relieving to hear that, that we have already progressed past that point, because the last few years definitely has seemed very tense, very
yeah,
difficult. But still, there are a lot of issues we need to play out, and I see there's a lot of people challenging those issues, and I feel I need to support them still. But we still need to keep our eye on the prize, and that is a better future. And I suppose that's where we need to keep but we still need to keep that light and support those people that are going through the
Yeah.
issues now? Because we still have a couple, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of issues. Really what they're saying is that, it's very true that things get super ugly before they clear up. It's just like having if you ever had a blemish on your face when you were a teenager and it just get big and ugly and horrible looking and super painful right before it burst and all the toxins came out and then it healed. And then eventually you didn't have that anymore. That's where we are right now. So, it's like the zit is about to pop. So it's very ugly, painful, embarrassing. People get very tired of fighting about it. There's a lot of resistance still. And basically their big message is stop resisting and start focusing on what it is you do want, and you will continue to manifest more and more of that higher vibrational frequency. You're going to gain momentum, and once the momentum gets really rolling, which it is now, then it affects everyone else around you, which causes that exponential hundredth monkey effect, and then most people get pulled up. What they're saying too is, I've had a lot of people say, well, that's a nice airy-fairy message. We all get to evolve. We go to a higher place where everything is, peace, love, and yoga, basically, or rainbows. And that sounds wonderful, but it sounds kind of selfish, because what about the people who don't? What happens to them? Basically, what the teachers have said over and over again is, well, yes, you get to go and have this. Every being who finally evolves to this level does, or returns back to the focus of that level, they do kind of have a spa day, if you will, and they enjoy being very liberated and very creative and very free and in peace and harmony and lots of love. And then eventually they remember, hey, there are some people left in that other density that aren't enjoying this, and I need to help them. And so then we become their teachers. And when we do that, then the ones who call themselves the teachers with us also jump up. So it's this kind of domino effect for everyone. Everyone's pulling everyone else up in their focus of reality at the same time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose that kind of shows, and just being yourself and being open and standing proud and egoless and doing stuff like this, collaborating, sharing information,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes, it's all about community, basically, and that's the big thing that's happening with them right now. Is their big message is to make as large a community as often as you possibly can, and get together, and meditation of any kind is the key to raising that vibration. And we know that, if you study quantum physics, you know that there is harmonic resonance that affects what is around you. If you raise your frequency, around you is going to ripple out and start to raise your frequency. We know this even with the sound technology. You can take a tuning fork that's tuned to the key of C and strike it, and against something metal or whatever hard, and it starts to tone. If there's a piano on the other side of the room, all the strings that are in the key of C will start to vibrate and tone,
Yep.
because that's harmonic resonance. So this is how we build this community, and the bigger the community becomes, the more global the community becomes, the consciousness of the whole community begins to become coherent. And so their big message is foster as much heart coherency with each other as you possibly can. Like you said, by being your true authentic self. They say by being of service to others, not service to self. And also being really grateful. when you're really grateful, when you can just really start to be consciously aware of everything that is around you that you can be grateful for, you begin to manifest more of what you want to be grateful for. And that also affects everything else around you. It affects everyone else.
Yeah.
They also say the fastest track to this rising up in frequency, besides doing these things together and individually, is to personally work on forgiveness. That is the thing that helps you clear out all the heavy sandbags, if you will, that are holding you down in this density, from rising up into the higher frequency. So you really have to absolutely come into a place of unconditional love and true forgiveness of everyone who has ever hurt or harmed you or anyone else or anything else, including and especially yourself. So it's a tall order, and it's not a message everyone wants to hear yet, but people are starting to listen. And just in my own life, I'm seeing people turn on a dime in a day's time.
Yep.
You know, coming from an unconscious, negative, unhappy, angry, resentful life, hateful life, to, oh my God, I just realize what I'm doing, and I realize that I'm not hopeless, that I am not helpless, that I do have power to really create and help co-create something better, because there's proof all around us if we just look.
Yeah.
But you have to change your focus, you have to change your mindset to finding those things, no
Yeah.
matter how small or large. So,
Very powerful. Yes.
yeah.
And I suppose meditation for people is just a great place to start, just on their own journey. Their own journey. It's just
Yeah.
very powerful.
It is the place to start. It's the key to everything, really, is what they're saying. And, you know, they have a very strong message that they keep building on, including, they literally just said, this is the time. It's time. You're ripe. Let's do this. And so they have planted the seed in some of us to literally hold a global meditation event, which is going to be held September 20th through 22nd, in conjunction with what used to be called the Storm Area 51 phenomenon. You know, it started out as a joke, but then 4 million people said they're interested in it, you know, and it started out as a kind of a negative thing, like, let's storm Area 51 and save them aliens, I think was the headline. But really what the teachers say is, we don't need liberation. We never did. It's you guys. We're helping you liberate yourselves. And that particular meme, that particular fake event turned into a real thing, which is now going to be called Alien Stock, which is going to be an ongoing, I think, not just this year, but this year is going to be small, but it's going to build to be a music and consciousness festival, believe it or not, for people to come together and start to talk about this phenomenon, about, you know, UFOs, about all of the, you know, metaphysical things that they may not understand, but they've had all these experiences. So it's a really exciting thing. So anyway, the teachers got hold of our friend Costa McCrease, you know, from ET Let's Talk, big CE5 promoter, huge activist, and basically charged him and us, some of us on his team, to create this kind of global meditation event where you don't go to Area 51. In fact, that other event isn't going to be there anymore either. I think they just decided to move it closer to Las Vegas so that so that they would have facilities. There's just nothing out there, you know, where they didn't want people to be in danger. So anyway, they charged us to put together this event and have a virtual, like we're doing right now, except it's going to be on Zoom, a virtual live meditation event. Actually, there will be 3, one for each day of that weekend.
And you'll be doing those meditations, Deb?
Well, I'm going to turn the Zoom on, and then the
Yep.
teachers say they're taking over.
Yep.
And what they've told us is that each live session will be a deep guided meditation for everyone. It's available to anyone who wants to listen live or in subsequent future. It's going to be very powerful. But when they speak through me, they're on the carrier wave of the words is a much larger batch of information, and it's energetic, and it will affect those who are listening, even on a physical level. They say it will switch on things in the DNA, that it upgrades the
Epic.
DNA, that it will, that there'll be integration and there'll be activation, so that people will get exactly what they need to move forward. And basically what these meditations are going to be, first and foremost, are coherency building. So, we have the potential to touch millions of people at once and bring them into coherency, and then have all of this other stuff happening to help them clear out all the junk so that they can rise up in vibration. And then they're going to do educational pieces in each one of these three that will build upon each other, which they'll discuss, during the thing, but during the messages. But the main purpose of this is to build a conditioned space around the planet Earth. And so you may understand what that is, but a lot of people who are listening to this interview may not. A conditioned space is something that is created when a group of people, or even one person, does over a space of time or with large numbers something, and it affects the actual physical space with that vibration. So, for instance, you could go into a 2,000-year-old cathedral, even if you're not a religious person, or of that faith. And when you walk in there, maybe you've had this experience, you walk in there and you just feel something different, right? You feel the vibration of all the people who have prayed and loved in that place. Or you go to a sacred place in nature where indigenous peoples have worshipped for years, or had big rituals, and you feel something different. So what we're going to do, and that's called a conditioned space, so you can get in that vibration really fast when you're in that place. So we're going to build a conditioned space around the whole planet Earth, send that high frequency vibration into it, lock it in, and then watch everybody cohere.
Yep.
The purpose of that is to ascend, basically, ascend the whole planet, or the greater part of it. So that's a tall order, but I believe I get goosebumps every time I hear them talking through me about that. It's just, it doesn't it sound great? And it sounds like a great experiment. Why don't we just jump on and do it for fun, just to see if it works,
I
But
feel
yeah,
I feel that outcome is inevitable, and stuff like this is really going to kick it along. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So that's it. They do have a more precise message that they'd like to give. If you want to have it recorded in this interview, you can just say when, and they will come right through. There's no preparation or anything. It just comes through.
If
So,
you're happy, Deb, yeah, I would love for that to happen if you're ready. Yeah.
oh sure, I always feel great afterwards. I, just so people will understand. I don't go anywhere, but I don't usually remember what is being said, because literally, people are like, do they take over your body? What's happening? Literally, what's happening is they are helping me connect to the higher form, or grouping of me, us, which is them. And so as I'm expressing as them, this me is not relevant in that non-local point in consciousness, so I don't remember it. So it's always exciting to listen to the recording afterwards. But nothing bad happens to me. I am completely supported with that vibration of energy. So I continue to grow exponentially in my own process every time I do this. So it's always a joy. So, yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't want to hold it off, but when I initiate contact, I always picture me just using my body, and
Mhm.
so it's funny that you say that. They are
Yeah,
us. It's
exactly. There's no, again, going back to our infantile understanding of quantum physics, or the infinite universe. I call it the divine infiniverse, but uh, just knowing what we know now, we already understand that there is no separation from anything. Everything is connected and everything informs everything else. It's just what you focus upon that creates your experience, right? So that's the key message, is focus on what you want. That'll be your experience. You just have to, they say there's a formula. Intensity times duration equals mass, I believe, is the physics formula. Intensity times duration equals manifestation, or reality in this case. So you can sit for the rest of your life and meditate and chant Om and envision a beautiful life for yourself, and you'll have it over time because it will build. Or you can sit with a few million people and chant Om and envision a perfect life or a happier life, and it will happen much quicker.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
absolutely.
because you come into coherence, right? So, but anyway, yeah, we'd just like to tell you now that our biggest message is you have already achieved it. And now we are here speaking to you to encourage you to just do these few things, and it will inform your life instantly, making it happier and healthier and more coherent to that which you want to move up into, which is a different frequency, a different lifestyle, where you're living harmoniously in heart coherence with the rest of your tribe, if you will, and the larger cosmic neighborhood. Because that is where most beings keep their reality of focus, is in, the higher frequencies, rather than in these lower frequencies, the school for the soul, as our partner's teacher once called it. It's fun to experiment and go into an amusement park and ride around on the scary rides once in a while, just to have that experience and to view the contrast and everything. But you all have become very tired of riding the rides. Our partner calls it not the school for the soul, but the amusement park for the soul. And now, most of you are finished with that, and you're ready to move on to being a grown up and creating and helping others to be free as well. So our message is, you've already achieved it. You've done it. You live on this reality. Now we're here because we are you on that reality, to remind you, to encourage you, to assist you, to reach down and pull you up with our encouragement, if you will, so that you can sustain the focus of that reality. It's not just a happy dream, in other words, it is your reality. And you do this through maintaining, or developing and maintaining, coherency with others. All right, so the easiest way to do that is through meditation. Now, for most, meditation is, getting quiet and still and focusing on that which you are intending to manifest, or even focusing on just being quiet and still. For others, it might be walking in nature. For someone else, it might be creating art or music. Whatever puts you in a flow state, that beautiful state where you are in the brainwave frequency, where it feels like there is no time, where time passes and you're shocked afterwards that you spent so much time doing something and you didn't realize it. That's the flow state that we're talking about. That's the sweet spot. So do whatever is best for you in your personal expression, each of you, to spend as much time and develop that feeling state as much as possible. The feeling state of what it is you want to be and feel is the key to manifesting it and crystallizing it as your reality. All right, so it's very tough to try to manifest a feeling state of something that you've never experienced before. So that's where your imagination comes in. Your imagination is a key tool for you to do this. So getting quiet and still, or getting into some sort of flow state, and then imagining what it would be like to live like you live as us on our frequency will help you to get there. Our society is harmonious, it's coherent, it's egoless, there is no duality, so no good or evil, there is life, there is peace, but there's also excitement, because when you are liberated from all of those other lower level negative aspects that you experience here in this third density, you are free to create. And creativity brings excitement, and excitement brings more imagination of things to create. And so it's this upward spiral, if you will, of existence. We are by no means at the top of the food chain where we exist. So we are always striving for higher as well. The way we move up is by helping you to realize that it's time for you to move up. And you will eventually do that with others as well. This is how it's always been. This is life at its very best. And as it's evolving best, it continues to get better and better and better. And that is our message to your society. Those who live on the third density planet Earth right now, many of you, most of you, are feeling a great sense of despair, hopelessness, helplessness, because you have started to believe in the illusory program that you set up for yourself, the construct that you can never get out of this seemingly imprisonment. But it's not a prison. It's just a construct. It is a playground that you have been experimenting with, and now you're finished with the experiment. It's time to move on and have a different experiment. And so we encourage you to foster with whatever practice that you find is the most appealing and exciting to you, a meditation practice, and then also to be able to do that with others and to build as many groups of coherent confederates, if you will, as possible, and practice as much as possible. Your CE5 practice, your human initiated contact practice, is perfect for this, because you instantly become coherent once you start to do it in your group, and then things start to happen. You see our hearts shining in the sky, interacting with you, signaling. You see us on the ground. You start to interact with us personally, and then you know the truth of the matter is there is so much more that you were unaware of that is life than just this negative, heavy, slow-moving construct that you have been focused on so far. And so we encourage you to do this as much as possible, and to always foster a feeling of joy and love and peace and gratitude. Be of service to others. It will bring you way more than anything you could do when you're in service to self. Be in nature as much as possible. You are on this planet for a reason. And the nature of this planet is one of the most beautiful constructs ever. It's not going to go away when you move up in frequency. It will just be more enhanced and more coherent with who and what you are. You will be more interactive with your planet. It will still be physical, but you will have a more crystalline liquid light form, if you will. So you don't always have to be physical if you don't want to, just as we are not. But we beg of you now to feel the happiness that is right there within you, and to let it grow right here in your heart, and to spread that love, and to spread that gratitude, and to spread that forgiveness, and to spread that excitement out in everything you do. Make every act a sacred act if you can. Be conscious always. Watch your mind, watch your thoughts, and switch them as much as possible to something better than what you were thinking before. And that is how we will achieve this coherence with each other. That is how you will move up into the cosmic neighborhood that is your absolute birthright. And so we thank you, and we invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
So cool.
I do definitely feel planet Earth is paradise, and the traditional people around the world definitely had it figured out compared to how we live today, more in alignment with nature, I suppose.
Yeah, I really do believe that most of our indigenous ancient peoples and some who still do live in their traditions are much more connected to that, and can be our great teachers. If we go back and study some of these ancient texts, or look at even cave paintings, or just have, especially the verbal tradition that comes through a lot of those tribes, if you will, and traditions. If you listen to the teachings from the medicine men, the shaman, the gurus, there is this thread of the same message that comes through. Be close to nature, love one another, live in harmony with each other, and the world will give back to you what you need. But we, for some reason, we decided to experiment with the other side of that, and I do feel like the coin's about to flip, though. So cool.
Definitely,
Yeah,
it is inevitable. I always see it that way, I suppose.
yeah. So, I mean, where you live, there is a great ancient tradition of that simple, pure life. I've always wanted to go there and meet with those people. It's so
Yes,
cool.
and I have been guided to do contact work in sacred locations and energy centers, I suppose, and I've had some truly amazing experiences there.
Right, and that's something that they do encourage us to do, is to practice as much as possible in what could be considered a conditioned space, right? So in sacred places, in places are vortices, or connecting ley lines or whatever, because the power is amplified at those. It's like stepping on an amplifier and having that energy that you're fostering do that. But if you're the message too is, if you're not near what could be perceived as a conditioned space, build your own. Start it, continue to do it there, even if it's just the space in your mind and your heart. Continue to foster that conditioned space, and it becomes amplified. And then it affects others, and then they amplify. And so that's really, I guess, the premise of this event on September the 20th through the 22nd, is that we are going to do that with each other. Even people who've never had an experience like that will have, if they come to it with an open mind and an open heart, they will have the experience of a lifetime, because they will experience the world come together.
Yep.
We saw an example of that back when, when I was a kid and Woodstock happened. It happened from this little tiny speck of an idea. And back then we didn't have the internet or anything. They didn't even take out very much advertising anywhere. It was a seed that was planted, and it was nourished by something that had been put in the global consciousness grid that was ripe. And man, it exploded and turned into this huge thing. And then, a couple of decades later, Live Aid happened. The first really, truly global music event and consciousness event, for the good, happened all over the world. And so these things keep happening. And this thing that I'm talking about us doing is, they say it's just the tip of the iceberg. This is just something that we're building on. It's going to be an exercise and an example of what we can do.
Will there be visual displays as well on this?
Well, it's going to be on Zoom.
Yep.
And so and I really don't know what they're doing. I mean, seriously, they just said, you create those Zoom links and you're going to post them. So there's a, ET Let's Talk actually has part of their webpage devoted to this. And we can give you links for that where people can register and get all the dates and the times and the links.
Yep.
And then we have a Facebook group that is called the Woodstock of ET Contact group that people can ask to join. And within that group is the event, Facebook event page, which lists the dates, the times,
yep.
and will post the links and more information. And that's pretty much that, the ET Let's Talk page, my web page, and those two Facebook pages contain a lot of the most recent transmissions from the star teachers talking about this. And a lot more information as well. I mean, we're talking right now about the Maharishi effect, basically. It's still 9/11 where you are too, right? You haven't gone to midnight yet. It's 9/11 where I live, and I think the whole world knows what 9/11 kind of, they kind of know it was a great disaster that happened in my country. There's a lot of argument over what it really was or how it really happened, and I don't care about that. What we found is that there had been for several decades researchers who were very interested in what they call the Maharishi effect, where the coherency of consciousness of many meditators could affect a physical outcome. So they were doing this, and they were studying things like random number generators and having meditators change the way the numbers came up. They also were putting these random number generators all over the earth and watching them come into coherence or rise when, like right before a great disaster would happen, the numbers would rise all over the world without anyone knowing that it was going to happen. Well, the day before 9/11, they all rose and peaked at the highest level they'd ever peaked. That happened. So that was quite empiric. We know that something happened. But the coolest thing is that they came into coherence on the opposite end right after it happened. People started cohering in their hearts, no matter what religion, race. People were just like, we're coming together, we have to pray for the world, or we have to meditate for the world, or we have to do something good to overcome this. And that is what we're talking about, coming into coherence. We want to do it with something positive instead of another 9/11. But this day is really symbolic of the power of group intention with coherence. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Truly amazing. Yeah, do you feel the star teachers, even though we have already made it, they see it that way and they are us, I suppose. Do you feel there is an urgency for people to become self-aware right now, and for us to share, to teach? Is there an urgency still, even though we have kind of made it? Is there that urgency, I suppose?
Yes, because really what we want to underscore for you right now is the fact that where you reside, you have 1 foot in each of the frequencies at this point, most of you. But where you are still rooted in this third density, the rules are different. And people don't respond unless there is a deadline, unless there is a sense of urgency, there has to be something to knock you out of where you are, okay? Push you out of the nest. The sense of urgency has never been greater because that tipping point could go either way. You decide how you want it. You can either decide to play along with the scenarios that are happening and to keep focusing on them and saying, oh, woe is me, this world is crazy, there are evil leaders in power, we can never overcome all of this, our financial system's corrupt, our political, all of that, you can just continue to watch the news and become brainwashed by that and become coherent with that, and you're stuck in your reality of focus that way. Or you can have something come along that gives you a sense of urgency. Number one thing right now, the sense of urgency above everything else is the climate of this planet. And the climate of this planet is starting to really bother everyone. It's something that is undeniable. Even those who are denying it know secretly that something is very different. And you only have a small window of time to change it, to change yourselves, all right? Or catastrophe happens, life as you know it gets wiped out on this planet, and it's a do-over, basically. So you get to decide whether you want to participate in creating a paradise on that planet or live through an apocalypse. It's up to you. So climate change is the thing. And what we try to remind people is, especially people who do contact work, is that once you have had a connection with what you would call an extraterrestrial life form, or an ultra-terrestrial life form even, or a light being, or a spirit, or whatever, something awakens in that person. And it's always connected to the environment. Like noticing that your environment, that something is very urgent that you have to help take care of. And so you either start to become more environmentally conscious, or you start to do service work for other people to help bring them up and eventually become able to take care of things better. But every person who has had contact seems to be part of the contact experience for all of you, for all of us, is to take care of where you live, because it is part of you and you are part of it. You are not separate. So that's the sense of urgency now, among other things, starvation and poverty and injustice, all those things. Sense of urgency everywhere. That's why all of your population is so stressed out and upset right now. But there is a reason for that. It's to wake you up, to push you out of the nest, to say it's time to do something different.
Yep, I see that's the message a lot of people are sharing at the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
thanks for sharing that. So,
Thank you.
Deb, I know you're very busy, so I'll let you go. I urge everyone to get involved in the Woodstock of ET Contact event and participate, whether this is the first time you've heard about it or you are a part of this community and have been. I think it's a truly amazing thing we can really create some change with. Is there anything else you'd like to share or say, Deb?
Well, thank you so much. I can provide links for you, Matt, if you want
Yep,
to attach them to this video.
definitely.
If anyone wants more information about any of this, they can contact me at debzshakti.com, DEBZSHAKTI.com. That's super simple. Or you can go to etletstalk.com, which is another great website with tons of resources. That's a community of that we know of 25,000 who actually registered. The teachers say it's literally in the millions now of people who do that contact work because of that group,
Yep.
that they were that touchstone. Or go to Woodstock of ET Contact on Facebook, and you'll see stuff I'm on all the social medias, as we all are. You'll see it on all our social media. But the final message is just to please come. Please be with us just for a few minutes, and if you can't be there live, do this on your own during those 3 days and help build that coherent conditioned space for the planet so that we can get out of this mess and be happy.
You.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I can't wait to be a part of it, Deb, and I'll definitely be tuning in.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you. You are a part of it. Thanks to this, Matt. I really appreciate it, and thank you for staying up late. I know now you're getting ready to move into your into your long work week, and I appreciate you so much for making time for us. And thank your family too for letting you have this time
That's
as
fine.
well.
Thank you for waking up early and being a part of
Oh,
it. Appreciate
thank you.
it.
I get up at 3:30 in the morning, so it wasn't
Okay.
that early, but I had to do my practice before we could talk. So,
Awesome. I
but
appreciate
thank
it very
you.
much, Deb.
Oh, you're welcome. Namaste. In
Namaste.
Lakesh.
In Lakesh
Thank
indeed.
you. Thanks so much. Bye now.
Bye.